would,
The ambulance, we'll talk about.
the ambulance, I think we should recommend,
Yeah.
and we, because even if we have to pay 250 cash next year, it's not gonna deplete
I don't
our
think we
roads.
will, honestly.
I understand, but it's not gonna deplete what we can do.
No,
for roads.
correct. It is not.
But $1 million will.
$1 million will shoot us right over.
So why don't we shoot for, we want to put that on our agenda to talk about for our next council meeting, the mud wagon? I'm sorry? Not, well,
Not the
meeting are we
27th, so
at?
the next one is.
I don't even know when we have a meeting. in
It's June,
June 11th.
yeah, that's it.
That's a regular Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Are we gonna put it on, are you asking to put it on the work session, or are we gonna discuss it on the floor at all?
What do you guys think? I mean, if we think we can absorb that cost or some way of absorbing that cost, I think we ought to get moving on it.
I think one of the things that I should be able to do by that meeting is we will have the collection information from the second quarter this year, and I should have a pretty good idea of carryover by then. So I can,
Well, we can put it on there just to begin the discussion.
we can start, that's fine.
You can even make just first reading,
Just
to
for
get
first
the
reading.
discussion out
So
there.
you're looking for having an ordinance on June 11th for a squad?
Correct.
Okay, the 250
For
grant.
number one.
275.
Well,
270.
we don't have exact costs.
We're authorizing him to go out.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No, I get that.
There-
We have
there
no
is-
specs, I
right.
get that.
There
part.
is state bid purchasing,
Right.
but we still might bid
Whatever.
to see if we can get a better price.
Well, that would make sense.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I'm
As long as you
asking
can
and
find
seeing
someone
what
that
we can
matches
do.
that, you're good.
Sometimes if you get them in different colors,
Yeah, right.
So June 11th, we'll shoot for that. The aerial tower, I'll initiate the other conversation. Moving to number 3, MVA billing contract, EMS billing renegotiation. I'm assuming that's both of you, one of you?
This is,
Armor All?
yeah, this is mine. MVA billing contract, we suspended MVA billing some time back.
Was that the controversial?
It was a controversial that
That
they
was-
were adding costs onto the bill that we were sending out. So we would bill a certain amount, they were adding some on, we weren't
That was that third
keyed in.
party.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we're looking at restarting this for major events. Okay, this is not just going out for the normal car accident. This is a semi going off 271 and dropping 5 cars over the guardrail. We're up there for 6 or 7 hours. It's not the average car accident. We go on a normal car accident, we're there for an hour, we're back in, there's no bill generated. We're gonna actually fill out a piece of paper and hand it to the billing company. The billing company is Life Force, the same one that does our EMS billing for us right now. We're actually gonna renegotiate our EMS billing contract to lower the cost on it, because we're using a new computer program that is paid for by the hospital for us. And it makes it easier for her to download all of the information into her billing. So she is offering to lower ours from 8% collection rate to 7% collection rate. Not a huge amount, but not much stuff comes down. Mostly everything goes up. So I'm happy with that. And then the MVA billing contract, obviously I have to, there'll be a whole discussion on that when I bring it in as far as how the billing is, but I wanted to give you a heads up on it. I think there's some money that we can capture out there, especially for, the semi truck that goes off, the propane truck that goes over in the ditch. We have to stay on scene 6 hours while they tow it out. There's some, we're not able to go on EMS runs and do other things. We're paying overtime to get people in, and I think we can capture some of that money.
Is that then billed through their insurance? Or
Will be
billed to
billed
their
through their
insurance?
insurance, yes.
Why
And
not
then, is
their
that already
insurance.
out in other communities, that the definitions already out there, that you don't have to create it, that says, there's MVA billing out there already that says, if it's this amount of hours, we get to recoup this is a major event, has those definitions already out there somewhere?
I don't know what you mean by definition.
She's asking, is
What's a
it based
major
on
event?
hours, is it based on trucks out, is it based on?
Ours would be based on truck and personnel.
But it's already out there defined, that you don't have to define
Yes.
it.
Yes and no. I mean, the insurance companies don't go into it at all. We went through a lot of problems.
Yeah, why do you think you're gonna be able to recapture from the insurance companies for a big event when you can't get it from a little event? No offense.
Well, they're looking at what's routine and what's not routine. Okay, so the insurance companies look at stuff, and if they see something major, like the truck going up the road here when it dropped off the 500-gallon French fry grease up the road. They paid for that.
Oh, they do?
They paid for that.
All right.
So, you know, it's just a matter of, wait a second, a fire truck came out for 10 minutes and went back in service, and you want to charge us for an hour.
Is it only for motor vehicles or does it include the railroad?
It would include any type of.
Does it include the
form of
railroad?
The
transportation.
railroad.
Like a
Any
train
type of
wreck.
Just the
transportation.
horrible things of what have happened with two of them
Yes.
recently.
Legally, we can do it for any type of hazmat and bill back.
Okay.
That's state law. But, you know, some of these things, it's mostly larger trucks that come through town, or even car accidents, if the car accident's really bad. The insurance companies don't have a problem, as long as you substantiate it. It's not a routine call. This was something that was a lot more than what the routine call was.
And I'd be on board for that as well. And I'll give you our example. It happens once every 2 to 3 years. We get a semi-truck truly wedged under the Ledge Road Bridge. Okay, the last one we had, we tried airing down the tires, airing down the bags. We still couldn't get it pulled out from there. They ended up bringing in a great all, unloading the whole load out there on Ledge Road. I mean, we were there like 8 hours with the road closed, trying to get that vehicle out from underneath there. Finally, they ended up chopping it to pieces and pulling it out. I mean, those kind of things where this guy, that, you know, it's clearly posted what the height is, and he wedges his truck underneath there, and now he's got police officers, firefighters tied up all this time. Yeah.
So we're going
They need to bill.
extraordinary costs and billing people.
Yeah.
I think that that's.
When we were billing for the general ACD accidents, oh,
No,
I've
forget
never had a
it.
worse problem. It was a mess.
And that was one of our problems too. The insurance companies don't want to pay the police. They dig their heels in, and as soon as they see police, they're like, no way. They see a fire truck, they see oil dry, they see this thing lost all of its oil on the roadway, we had to shut down the roadway, they're a little bit more lenient
Did
to
you put
pay.
some turnout gear on them?
And this includes 271,
Oh, absolutely.
because we manage a portion of it, even though it's also
Yeah.
a state road.
Yeah. It's not a huge moneymaker, but, you know, if.
No, but it's a recoup. You're absolutely right.
It is a recoup, and it's done, you know, this was not a normal accident. We fill out the paperwork, what supplies were used, how many people were on scene, but it's for the extraordinary. It's not for the average, we went out and did something like that. And the insurance companies, they see that, and they will pay it.
Let's do it.
And it's legal, so I'll bring you the contract, and we'll talk about what the billing is to make sure that everybody's okay with that. We're all on board.
Why don't you just work through legal, the legislation draft for that, I'm sure we need it. And then we'll just begin the conversation.
Okay,
That's an issue for the June 11th meeting.
sure.
Well, that's the timeline you have.
Yeah, it's being based on this contract for the law department. You know, we base it on
Yeah,
June
I'll-
11th or.
Yeah, I could try for January. Yeah, I just want to be able to set some time up, because I want everybody clear as far as how, it's Life Force, so it's not another company, it's Life Force, and we're very comfortable using the right in Streetsboro. And I have the contract, but I just want to make sure everybody's good, because I don't want this big uproar and anybody to look bad that we're starting to bill for this again. But it's pretty common with fire departments, it's not something that's out of order. And legal said that we can do this, I mean, this is something that we can do, so.
Okay, so just to revisit that, you were saying that you're in the process of renegotiating Life Force due to just the normal billing. It's going down from
Yes, it'll be a new.
8%, so that there'll be a contract with that. This additional cost, will that be a separate contract incorporated into?
It'll be a separate contract for
Okay.
the EMV billing,
Okay.
MVA billing contract, yes.
Okay, I don't think anyone's gonna dispute that large of a cost for things like that. We cannot charge for that.
And there's guidelines, and I mean, that deal we had on Ledge Road, the last one, Interstate billed those people $27,000 to pull that load off and pull that truck out from under there. And it had to be paid within 10 days by federal transit guidelines or something like that, and by God, they paid it.
Oh, yeah, they have,
So,
they have.
yeah.
So they actually just drove the truck right into
Right
the
under it.
bridge.
Well, that's why, thank goodness, the one on 82 got changed.
1210,
because
and he made the cab almost under it too.
I can make it.
So,
Yeah, we get a semi truck and a piece of metal comes up and hits their saddle tank and they lose 60 gallons of diesel on the road.
Wow.
We're there a long time.
But doesn't that go into all of their Bravo stuff with EPA and all that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we don't handle a lot, we just block the road, I would assume, right?
we clean it up,
Really?
we do everything, yeah.
We gotta clean
Yeah.
the
The guidelines gotta be pretty
oil
strict.
dry.
6 feet clearance.
We gotta that, so.
Figure-
We could be, even if we're not cleaning it up and we call it a remediation company like Interstate to do that, we're still there. We still gotta block the road for them to
At least
ensure
we
that this
haven't had
hazard's taken
the
care of.
carload of deer or something,
Boots and coots and all
chickens
that.
that guy got hit and now got loose.
So I would like to be able to recoup for that. So moving on to number 4, Jan had a question on the clothing allowance, that we were at 150%.
Yep.
It's actually this simple. We've only spent out of that line item, $4,200. What that is we write POs for clothing allowance for all of our full-time personnel, okay? So all of our full-time personnel. We normally, they don't spend all of that money. So 21,000 was budgeted. We wrote POs for the 150% over for the $31,000, okay? But we've only spent 42. So I can't really cancel those POs because that's union contract that we pay that. But in history, looking back, hindsight 2020, they never spend that money. That makes sense.
But
Kind of dangerous,
when
but it
you
makes
and-
sense.
But when you and I talk, contractually, I get X amount of dollars per person.
Yes.
So contractually, that money should be in the line item because I have the authority by contract to spend that money. If I don't, that would eliminate the overage.
I wholeheartedly.
You know, if it says
But
10
this is
grand
how-
is
Never
mine.
been, they've never set
This
that
is
up.
how,
This is-
how it was set up by
It should.
finance, and I said, that
This
doesn't
is-
look right, it
okay,
makes
so
me
the way
feel
it was done
bad.
is backwards.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's what
So
it
we need to
is.
do is make that line item equal to what the contract states for both.
Okay.
And then, at the end of the year, you'll look real good because we'll only be at 40% or 50%.
We'll give the money back, no big
Right.
deal. We do that with a lot of accounts, I mean, we don't
Yeah.
spend
We've
it.
been doing it this way. 'Cause it's just a recent
Something with
trend.
the auditors, I believe that's why it was done this way, because of the auditors requested said,
How many years? Has it been several years? 2
Two.
years.
yeah.
Hasn't been before.
They renegotiated to get a different clothing allowance,
Okay.
because some of them had a whole bunch of clothing allowance and they weren't
So we
spending,
need
so
to
they
do is move the
renegotiated.
money from the general fund into each of those, because you have your own.
I'll do a reappropriation for that amount.
So you just need a reappropriation for how much, 10,000?
Yeah, 11.
So probably should get that out for June 11th as well.
Okay. And then we would
And
be
Vince, you
even.
need a reappropriation?
No, ours is set up different now through the new well, the contract's been set up this way a while, where basically the officers get it, they're taxed on it, and they go out and spend it on their own. It doesn't work to their advantage in some respects, because they pay sales tax on it, but then we don't have this problem of, I need to go buy uniforms, but there ain't no money in the account, well, you're gonna have to wait, so they changed it all up, and it's worked out.
But it's contractual, it should not
It
be
is
a
contractual,
question.
exactly. And
Right.
this, I remember this being a problem almost every budget, like sometime we'll have to go back and say, look, it's, $42,000 is supposed to be in there, you gave us 19, that ain't gonna work. So, I mean, it's been,
And I've done the same thing, I've said, I don't like that. And
Exactly.
they go, yeah, but historically, you only spend that much, so we only budgeted.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we write POs, which means we could spend that money, they technically could.
And the thing is, contractually, I owe 10 grand. 10 grand should be sitting in that account. And that the reason I had, the chief and I had the discussion is, when I looked at the monthly, I always scanned to see who's over, and it was at 150%. I'm like, and I never worry about the two of your entities blowing that line item, so I knew something was astray.
Well,
Thank you,
Well,
Chief.
uniforms are kind of important.
I think what I'm gonna do is call the
Unless you get the
auditor.
gold braid.
I think I'm gonna call the auditor, get some input on this, because if that's what they've been telling us, we'll see. Okay.
I don't
So that's
remember
what I
us
was told.
ever being over in
Then-
my
then-
years on.
Well,
so-
I'll
In
call.
monthly reports,
Are you-
because,
you-
and the reason I say that is because in the monthly reports, first thing I do is look down the percent.
Yeah, I know, everybody.
And there were two that jumped out, and that was the one why I asked that night, because I don't remember ever seeing him. There's usually
No.
been some others that we kind of,
This is very important to us, living within our means. So it's not something that we just willy-nilly. I mean, it is important. We look at this and say, this is what we have to spend, and that's what we spend. And we try to keep you guys updated as much as
And
possible.
at this point, you're 5 months into it, and you spent $4,200.
That's what we spend for.
as I've told you,
And we got 21,
You never worry
but we
about
have
this
POs,
fire department's
liabilities
budget.
out there.
Well,
above
I
the
understand.
Always
threshold.
right.
I'm gonna,
Okay,
I'm
so
gonna
we need to
talk to
put
the
the money
auditor.
in.
Yes,
Well,
We
we
really
will.
need to put the right.
I'm gonna
money in.
talk to the auditor and I'll give feedback.
Make the appropriation for that and we'll talk about it when we have it. June 11th.
Right, okay.
And then I just have one more item, I guess.
You got a number 5?
Yeah, we have some large repairs, and I know I sent an email out to
Yes.
everybody for the large repairs, so I will probably be having a reappropriation coming up towards the end of summer for the reappropriation on some large repairs, and of course, I'll have those repairs listed out of what we
Right.
got. We had a radiator go bad in one of our engines. Right now, we're seeing it's composite. No, they're no longer metal, they're composite. So needless to say, it's bad. They have to get to it, take it out, see whether they can rebuild it, put it back in, or they have to buy a whole new one and put it back in. We're hoping for the rebuild, but I don't know what the cost is on that. We're waiting for some cost figures on some other stuff,
Okay.
and I'll have that.
So you basically, you wanna do some things that you think are gonna be expensive and you want to
Yes,
be able to-
that will take us over the amount that
Yeah,
we
okay,
budgeted for
sure.
that line item of repair, and I'll have those.
Do you have an
When I ask
estimate?
for that reappropriation, I'll have those prices.
Do you have an estimate ballpark?
But I'm talking 5,000 on the radiator. Right now, I think we have 8,000. And then we have a repair on 2215 of our foam system that could be substantial, so.
That's
we'll-
substantial, 5 again.
20,000.
20,000.
Well, we're gonna have to look, that's something
For a
that.
tin can and a string? Does that make sense?
No, I'm sure their phone systems are more sophisticated.
Is that up on the older piece of equipment?
That is on 2215, it's a 2,000.
What is it?
15.
What kind of
Just
engine?
wanna put that money in.
Wow.
There's me, want to put 20 grand into it.
All right, chief.
It's supposed to last 25 years. Yes, it is. Thank you.
Mr. Yakupovich.
Well, basically, the biggest thing, I don't know if you've all seen, we've started advertising again for part-time dispatchers. And we're still not really getting anybody. So, and we had 2 applications come back. So Sonia and the chief asked me to talk about the pay scale. The top of our pay scale is absolutely fine. We don't need to make any changes there. However, when you advertise $10.89 as the starting wage, which is about, anywhere from $4 to $10 less than every other department's starting wage around us, that's the problem. And under the current pay ordinance, the way it reads, let's say we start somebody with no experience, let's say we're gonna start around $14 or $15, which would be considerably less. Most of the other departments around us start around $17.50, somewhere in there. Our current pay scale goes up to $21.66 for part-time. Again, that's more than acceptable. It's competitive with all the others, with the exception of Hudson, but we're not gonna be
Yeah.
able to compete with Hudson. So, if we take out the way it's worded now, the $19.23 an hour plus $2.43, whoever come up with that, I have no idea, per hour lead certification, and just make the total $21.66 and raise the starting rate, because we're never gonna start anybody at $10.89. I mean, we're not gonna get somebody here for that, to do that job. You
Heck,
couldn't pay me
California
to do
just
that
changed
job.
minimum wage to $15.
There you go. So if we move this part-time dispatcher classification up to, I think it's grade 6, would raise that,
Okay, I'll check that.
yeah, at the bottom, something more reasonable. You put that in the paper and people say, I'm not gonna do that job, work midnight shift and, deal with this for $10.89, even though
No.
we wouldn't start them at that, but how do you advertise that?
You
You're paying
cannot,
a ton of
you're
stuff.
going to have to advertise the starting salary as, so, yes, we can certainly look at that, I don't see that as an
Yeah,
issue.
and we don't need to change the
Sorry, did we
upper salary if we need.
Do you have everything at your fingertips, Josephine? It's just like,
Okay, so
Oh,
grade
there you
6
go.
is it? What did you say?
So right now, they're at grade 5.
Okay.
But they also have a $2.43 lead certification bonus.
So change it to 21.66
Actually,
on the top. And then
So
what's
it will
the-
be
what's the six?
compatible if, even that is just terrible. You know what I mean? To advertise starting wage 12.30 to 22.16.
Okay, but
Everybody
here-
else, Twinsburg is $17 to 21.63, Stowe is 14.20 to 18.35 plus 60 cents an hour for afternoon and night shift. Hudson's 20.60 to 29.78,
What's the number of hours a part-timer's working, 30?
under that.
So if they're working 30
Under.
hours and we were to raise that, what's the average part-timer starting at now?
Well, 1721 was the average Stowe starts people at. They never start anyone below $17.
That's 29 hours part-time.
Yeah, it'll be roughly.
And that's what Twinsburg is, about 1721?
Twinsburg is between 17, their starting pay is 17. And it goes up to 2163, but they have some sort of bonus there too, and I didn't ask my wife. She's the dispatch supervisor there. I should have asked her before I came here, but Sonia put this together.
Okay.
But they start at $17. I mean, that's significant when you're advertising for an employee.
So why don't we just look at how to adjust that properly? And,
Because this grade changes, if you change the grade, it changes everybody else who has
Right,
that
so we
grade.
have to look at
that's-
changing the
that's-
grade
Right.
and not changing the
Well,
pay scale.
why don't we do this?
We're not looking to change the grade or the pay. I want the part-time dispatcher classified, yes, as a 6 instead of a 5, or maybe even a 7.
What you wanna do is change what pay grade they're at,
They
you don't wanna
fall.
change what's
Yeah,
within the pay,
exactly.
because that does change everybody else
Exactly.
that's in there.
So, and the other thing being, and the way it starts out, if we would start somebody at the lower side, $10 or $11, the way the ordinance is, they can only get 3% of their mean. 2% of their mean. They would never, ever reach a competitive wage to the departments that surround us. We'd never
well,
keep the
I see your point, we can make the adjustment, we
Yeah.
just have to figure it out.
Do we get
Figure out the
differential
amount,
per
let's
night?
put it on.
Why
We
you go with the
don't do it
proposal?
with part-timers, but we should.
We
Do
don't
what?
do differential per night.
We do it for the full-timers. Personally, I think whatever the full-timers get, that's what the part-timers should have, because if you want quality people, that's what we gotta do. And in talking with Macedonia, because I can tell you our woes, Twinsburg, Stowe, and Hudson, they're all in the same thing. I mean, my wife is pulling her hair out. I asked her the other day, how many part-timers do you still have? 0. Well, didn't you guys just hire? Yeah, it didn't work out. Well, what about that girl that worked at Solon? She quit. Why'd she quit? Well, because I quit giving her hours, because every time I scheduled her, she'd never show up. She'd always call off and say, oh, they're paying me overtime at Solon, they want me to stay. So if we want decent people, we're gonna have to pay them. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Is the thought process still so many full and so many part-time, or?
Because of the general unreliable nature of part-time, we'd love to have another full-time that could float to take care of that. And originally, that was the plan, but that kind of fell by the wayside. It was originally budgeted, I think, when we first took on Northfield, it was in the budget, and then it kind of got taken out. But, I mean, at this point, if we can get a couple part-timers, if they prove to be reliable, which brings me to my next point that needs to be addressed. In the pay ordinance, and I think it's section 8 of the pay ordinance, there is the Fred Tufts clause, if you will. When you leave here and holding this position, you can't come back in another position, part-time or whatever. Any employee of the city of Macedonia having retired from this position with the employment from the city and being eligible to receive retirement benefits from any state-funded pension plan shall hereafter be ineligible for reemployment with the city in the same or equivalent position, including employment as a consultant. I would love to see that go away, because we have Jackie, who's a 25-year dispatcher, does a great job. She's gonna be retiring here in less than a year, and she would be the perfect, reliable part-time dispatcher. When she retires, she would come
But
back, I
does the
think you
Fred
have to.
Tough clause say exclude part-time, or just?
It says in any capacity, including consultant.
So why don't you draft that to say that, and then come back with it?
Excluding dispatchers, or, I mean,
No, just,
I think the whole thing is.
If someone were to come back,
This is the double dip,
Part-time employee.
anti-double dip clause,
Right.
basically.
It was put in to stop double dipping,
And-
which we
I
didn't
mean,
have an
the
excessive
definition of
amount,
double
but-
dipping, I mean, she's paying into that pension currently,
Right.
okay, and she's gonna get that money through the pension, whether she works here or not, or goes to Twinsburg and takes a job over there. If we have somebody that's already trained,
I see your
uniformed.
point, I'm just saying the issue is how to deal with that legislatively without opening Pandora's
Right,
box.
I think what we should do is, let's move forward with the grade change. Let's figure out how we're gonna deal with the Fred Tufts legislation, because I'm not willing to throw it out the door.
The double
But,
dip.
right, but I certainly understand that when someone is like a line worker, that to me is slightly different than
Oh, it
than
is.
the.
Than a director or a consultant.
Exactly,
Yes.
coming back, I see a difference.
You did that really easy.
Well,
You
it's
could
an
put a
obvious
line in there,
difference, that's for
anyone
sure.
at
And it
a
was
director
called that
level
just because it
position.
happened at the same time.
I mean, you could really take that and just define a little tighter, and
Right.
that would be okay.
Right. Right,
what
but I'm-
you just said would work.
Right, I'm not sure if I'm willing to commit to that right now, but
No.
yes, I'm willing to talk
I'm
about
okay
it.
with no commitments, I just want you guys to know this is a problem.
Well, we
Yeah,
can
it's
make
not
the,
the
we
problem.
can make the pay grade change. That is
Director
not-
director level.
Pay grade in the next meeting.
Well, no,
Take
well,
care of it.
and we'll
Once
deal
you
with the
consolidate
single
on
pay
the
grade.
other
That-
thing,
that's not a
we'll
bad
change the
idea.
language in there.
Okay.
And see what he comes up with.
Who's not director, who is.
And then we can begin that conversation too.
So we gotta.
I think it's
think it
appropriate to
out.
go from there.
Okay.
Sonia
It's
has
kinda
a
like
copy
the
of this,
memory
but I
card
can make
stuff.
Actually, she
copies.
doesn't, because I was looking for it today, but I will make a copy.
Somebody
I
else
will-
did it long
Somebody else?
ago.
Yeah, this is a little bit of,
Get the picture from the school and I came
this is a
back.
safety committee issue for sure.
My neighbor, Wayne.
You know, we quit the contract, and this is a John Nadovich thing, but honestly, I've been pulled into it more and more, and I don't know if you and Brian talked about it, because I about had it last week. The Simplex system in the building, okay, when the building was built in 1997, they did all the fire suppression, alarms, all that. Now, I know you guys are aware, we're updating the cameras, and we're updating the swipe card mechanisms, because a lot of this stuff's failing. That's spectacular. Dino's idea when Digatano was here was to get rid of Simplex. I totally agree with that. Everything's proprietary. We can't ever get parts. If we do, like we had the alarm panel in dispatch because it's malfunctioning and they were hitting the silence alarm button, which is what they need to do when it goes off. They had to hit it so many times in a week period. It actually, the panel, it's broken, okay? The button is actually stuck in, so the alarm's constantly going off. So we call Simplex in because it's constantly going on, so we're paying them hourly rate.
Yes.
They tell us, the panel says what the problem is. It's card 18 LED light is gone. And it's been apparently doing this for 2 years. We've been paying service calls to these people. They come out and they tell us they can't find card 18. They can't find it. We're paying a service call, it's their system, they can't fix it. So every time they acknowledge that trouble light, it ends up breaking the thing, which is $3,000. And I'm like, we're not paying for one of those. I talked to Don Bell, we were able to remove the one from the jail and put it in dispatch to save us $3,000. Whether he's gonna research the fire code, we may have to buy that and put that back in. Long story short, I get frustrated and start walking around with this guy and Dino because we're gonna find this card 18. It's driving my dispatchers nuts. We go back into the jail, I lift the control panel, and the guy immediately says, that's not ours, we can't touch that. And I'm like, this is yours. Now Dino's shocked because technicians for over 2 years now have been telling him that's not our stuff. When I open the thing up there, it says card 18 with a big arrow pointed to it. It's a tiny little light bulb LED that was shorted out. It took about 3 minutes to fix, and we've paid probably $2,000, $3,000. I don't want to venture a guess with this system. We need to consider a plan, and Don Bell and Dino would be the ones to talk to replace the fire suppression system in this building and just completely get rid of Simplex. I mean, we
Okay,
can
so
do
this,
that with the
this can
intakes.
go into budget planning for the coming
For
year.
next year.
There's, yeah, that's good.
So what's
And
looking
yeah,
for-
we already agreed
I
to
think
the
it's a
other.
Don Bell thing. I was gonna talk to Timmy about it, but honestly, I was so frustrated because
Well,
nobody knows this building anymore. We
She's
don't have
right.
a service
Well, we
line.
get numbers and put that in the proposal for next year's budget.
Okay.
And that makes
We
perfect
could do
sense.
that in another safety committee, the confirmation of the building.
But I think that one's gotta go in the regular budget process.
Yeah, I don't see
No.
that as a.
I'm not, this is not a less now. This is within the next 3 to 5 years. We're gonna end up paying for it
Well,
anyway.
you know-
That's
Wait
right,
for
great.
us to
You know
buy
how
his
things work,
truck
start the
first.
conversation, because they'll buy you 3 to 5 years before you get it.
Right, well, you know what though, if we do a 10-year capital plan and we do a plan for all the equipment, I don't see a problem. We should be doing these things so we know that we're correcting them. And the idea that, you know, you're paying $2,000 for a 3-cent bulb to be replaced.
Exactly. That I was living.
I'd say that's
Two
about
water
normal.
main breaks, the fires.
Suppression
Thank
system.
you.
In,
That-
above
what?
my office in the DB, and
And
above our
above
evidence
here,
room,
yeah.
and over there.
And over there, so we had
You know,
So
two
we've
breaks.
got 2 in our
I
section.
take it it's not,
So we
that's
have
not
two
open to the
breaks.
public.
Well, you can mention this, but there's
Oh,
other.
it is?
I'm just not interested in going back.
Oh.
Okay, that is totally different, okay.
But the suppression system, the dry air system itself, is, and it's got bellies in it, there's water, so
Oh, absolutely.
it's gotta be repaired. So, all right, last thing, and this is just something I thought of today because of my frustration as well. We had to release a prisoner today who is 29 years old having a heart attack. Well, he's here on an escape charge from the last time he was furloughed and didn't return. we need to consider, and I'm gonna reach out to other departments, I've looked into this before, trying to get some sort of temporary health benefits for prisoners. Can't really seem to find anything, but bottom line is, and it doesn't happen that often, but we need to set up an additional line item to consider funding that occasional prisoner that just isn't going away, that we have to send somebody to the hospital with. And I'm not talking about for the officer's pay, we can absorb that. But we step into the ER with this guy who's got chest pains and they start doing EKGs and all this stuff, it's $3,000 just to walk in. 2 hours later, they kick him loose. We just negotiated a bill down to right around 1,800 last month. The general thing is, we always furlough and kick them loose. We gotta stop doing that. And I don't mean on the first time around, but this guy's been through that process and was charged with escape after that.
Can't we go back just like the NBA ones on these people? I mean, I'm sure they probably won't.
The guy's a heroin addict, he ain't got a penny, and his parents, they won't even bond him out right now. You know what I mean? They're like, you need to keep him in there. Well, this morning, we strapped him in a restraint chair because he's threatening to hurt Regina and hurt himself. So after a little bit of time in the restraint chair, he calms down, get him out, got the jail doctor to write him Xanax or Zoloft. Before that even arrives, he's having a heart attack. Well, he ain't having a heart attack, but the squad did the right thing because the med control's like, no, you're taking him.
That's right.
Well, now, if I want to send an officer and keep him and make sure he comes back, it's going to cost me a lot of money. I mean, thousands every time they walk in. I would love to be able to say, when we get these kind of people 2, 3, 4 times a year, we'll take you, we'll sit with you,
What happened to
and
the
then we'll bring
ordinance
you
they
back.
had about going back for health costs? The legislature said they don't have money?
Judge, yeah, they don't have any money. How are you gonna collect it? Judge Hoover's usually pretty good. If somebody has the means, he'll order restitution. He'll not only the health cost, but also the time the officer spent there with them. But when we run into these people, we're not gonna get a penny out of this guy.
Is there, can you buy insurance for this? I would think no insurance
No,
company would
nobody
ever
does
do
that.
that.
And we're saving a ton of money now because we streamlined our medication, which the company's out of, I think Chagrin Falls area. I mean, it's like a quarter of the cost of what we were buying at Walgreens, and they deliver it to our jail. So,
Right.
and we're doing everything we can to try to keep these people there, but on occasion, and it doesn't happen often, but we need to come up with some money so we can just say, nope, we'll take you to the hospital, then we'll bring you back. It may cost us $3,000 to $5,000, but you know what? You're gonna be in our place, and then we're done with you. Because honestly, he spent 2 days here now. He was sentenced to 13 days. He was furloughed again. He'll get charged with escape again. They'll give him another 13 to 15 days. He'll do another 3 days. So we're gonna go pick him up on a warrant again. It's just endless cycle. It's just not gonna
What
stop.
Let me ask you the question, I almost don't want to know the answer to. Is this someone that we picked up in town?
No.
See, and that's what drives me.
Well, originally, yeah. The arrest
Well, I
was
mean, it was
original for heroin possession here in town.
So it was in Macedonia,
Yes.
unless it's Stowe Brown or something like
No,
that.
no, it's our, if it was Stowe's, it's not my problem because they pay the medical bill. Any of those people, they pay the
So
medical
this is a
bill.
Macedonian resident who.
It's not a resident. It's just somebody who was probably shoplifting.
It's somebody we
at-
arrested.
Yeah.
Somebody
We
that
own it
arrested
because
in
we arrested.
Macedonia.
Arrested in
Yeah.
Macedonia,
You
yes.
should arrest better quality criminals.
No.
If there's
So-
some person,
Yeah.
some drop them off in another community.
Yes.
At some
Get them
point,
and see it.
because of the situation where you're taking and escape, they keep adding in, does it become not our problem but the county problem after, you know?
Because on a furlough, escape is considered a misdemeanor, so it's gonna always be.
So
a
it doesn't escalate
No.
into a different,
Into a higher level crime.
A real
This
escape,
person in.
escape as in escaping from a correctional facility would be a felony. That would be their problem. However, escape on a furlough or a conditional order is a misdemeanor. It's
so
always
it's
gonna
on
be
a
our
furlough
problem.
because he's gone to the hospital and then he just decides to leave, that's
Exactly.
another.
Yeah.
So your theory is that if we have the money and we just do it, he'll learn that it ain't gonna get him out any further along.
Yeah, if we can stick it to 2 or 3 people a year and say, you're coming back here, it'll make a big difference and a big impact on, because everybody back there has a heart attack when one person does. Rick, it's been the same way since when you were with us. I mean.
Don't drag me
yeah.
into this, Vince.
Okay, I'm good.
Really?
So, I mean, so we move them to the other area, and now we put them in the restraint chair before we move them, because everybody looks like, oh man, I don't wanna get strapped into that thing.
Find a felony.
Yeah, get them in the other room,
That's what I just said.
so. I
And
mean-
this is like, these are, you think these people are play acting or are they psycho?
Oh, absolutely, no, they're play acting. But
Because
they
you
know, they know the
can't-
system.
You can't
This
take
guy
that
just spent,
chance, that's right.
this guy just spent 10 days in the county jail. And I mean, I won't say he was a problem initially. He's begging us, please take me to county. I can't take the small space you guys have. I'd like to be in a pod. Please just let me do my time in county. Well, the county won't take a misdemeanor charge. You're not gonna go to county. You're here, pal.
Yeah.
So through the night, it was pretty difficult. I think you guys dealt with him once or twice through the night. And then this morning, you know, it's anxiety, you know, I'm gonna hurt somebody, I'm telling you right now.
He's
I'm gonna-
claustrophobic, he's,
Yeah.
yeah.
And even in the day,
The problem is too, is we're taking him in.
Right.
He's paying us zero for the transport.
Right.
We charge our own residents insurance.
the
And then,
thought-
while we're doing him, we can't transport the
Well-
resident. if they have
So
a
the
car.
thought is to have a line item to be able to have someone escort and
the escort's
wait.
not the problem, it's the medical bills.
Pay the
If-
medical
If he's
bill.
in custody of the city of Macedonia, we're paying for his medical bills.
So okay.
And we do every situation differently, like for instance, if we're gonna take them down there, and we do take people, but not on a very regular basis, and they know that. If we know for sure they're faking and the doctor's cool down at Sagamore, well, today we couldn't get him into Sagamore, they had to take him to Akron General. But we may say, okay, he thinks he has a broken hand because he punched the wall. We'll take him, get the x-ray, it's not broken, they give him some ibuprofen and we're back in 20 minutes. We'll eat a, $200 x-ray bill, I'm fine with that. It's the ones where I'm having a heart attack, we're gonna, no, you're not. You're 29 years old, you're healthy, the only problem you have is, you're a little bit claustrophobic and you really don't wanna be here. Those are the type of people we need to just go down with them, pay the bill, and keep them. If we get down there and we realize, oh man, they are having a heart attack, then we immediately emergency furlough them before any more testing and we're good to go. So we're only taking a portion of the bill. So
Well, this is a fascinating exercise in
it's
craziness.
frustrating, it's really frustrating.
And
because this kid today is
the
like,
taxpayers
who
of
knows?
Macedonia have the honor of running him over to the hospital and then,
Yeah.
just so that when he stops faking, we can bring him back, right?
So
Yep.
you can't get
Or we
insurance.
could do away with our jail.
I'm asking to
That's
create
the
a
other
line
question.
item specifically, or I'm gonna talk to Tom to see if part of our mayor's court fines could start a line item for paying.
Now, that's a
for medical.
possibility, yeah.
Well, there's nothing statutory that will allow that unless we pass an ordinance, like. a
Well,
lot of-
we could.
Yeah, so we'll have to see.
I
what
still
can
think we
do.
should go after them, at least see if they have money to pay for their own freaking bill.
I'll be honest with you, like, he's got a mayor's court warrant too, owes us $650.
Well, jeez.
I just assume they dismiss that and call it a wash, because this guy he's never gonna pay, and
He's a deadbeat and he probably doesn't have any money and he's a heroin addict.
Exactly.
Great.
Right, it's a
he's
total
got
waste of time
hepatitis
to
C,
try to
he's
collect
got,
it.
all kinds of different things, I mean, we're never gonna get a penny out of the guy, so.
Yeah, check with Tom and see, and then we'll figure out.
Yeah, all right, I agree with that.
If we have to fund a line, we'll fund a line.
Yeah.
It's either that or not have a jail.
Right, well, we have never gone back across the whole idea of whether a jail is essential or not, but
Well, as far as money goes, it's irrelevant to me, a jail is essential for, effective law enforcement, that's the bottom line.
Right, we know.
well, that's.
Nobody wants to get rid of the jail.
Yeah, right.
Anything else for us, sir?
Nope, that's it.
Chief, anything else?
No.
Safety committee, anything else?
No.
Nope.
Motion to
Leave
adjourn.
leave on a good or on an upbeat. Aren't we gonna have another meeting?
We were supposed to talk about the sunshine, the modification of the records request. I don't see the law department here, so that Jan had requested the law department to come. And I can explain what's in here if somebody wants to do that right now, or we could do that at work session.
What?
I only planned the hour because we said it would be an hour and then we were gonna go into the other one, so
Right.
6:30 to 7:30 is now the meeting.
Well,
That meeting was canceled, I thought.
it is canceled.
All right.
I thought we're done.
Okay, well, all
All right.
right. I didn't ask for
There's
it.
no law department meetings.
We're just done by. Sylvia, how are
How's
you?
it going?
You guys are done, no meeting?
Apparently, we are having no meeting. Well, you're talking about the other meetings?
6:30?
No, unfortunately, people didn't get notified, but the opinion of our illustrious law department is we could not have the meeting due to notification error.